Welcome to How to Access Emergency Subsidies Before They Go Away. It's being hosted this morning by Fair Grant Writing. Today we're going to have a look at some of the grant opportunities related to the pandemic relief program from the government and how you can move quickly to access them. Our speaker today will be Igor Chigrin, Principal of Fair Grant Writing. Just a quick bit of housekeeping. We're going to have a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. Please write your questions in the chat and we will begin with those before opening the floor to discussion. For confidential inquiries, please message us individually with your contact details and we'll contact you after the webinar. And with that, and with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Igor.
Thank you so much, Colin. I'm going to now share my few slides here. Here we are. Thanks for attending this webinar, everyone. We'll be going through the emergency programs provided by the government, and we'll look into different types of those programs, because overall they're called subsidies, or actually incentives, but anyway, there are different types of those incentives to be aware of, and we'll go through major and most popular programs that are available for a short period of time to help the economy to recover, and especially those who was hard hit by COVID and closures. We'll look into a few strategies for successful applications, and then there will be a question and answer period at the end. A couple of words about Fair Grant Writing, who we are. So we are a professional grant writing firm, and we are on a mission to help Canadian businesses survive and thrive by unlocking their access to government funding. We've been in the government funding business since 2013, and work with hundreds of clients securing the millions of dollars in government grants. Very effective process of gathering information. We'll make sure that you as a client spend at least amount of time as possible working with us, and we have very rigorous quality control process. That all maximizes the chances for success of your government funding application. A couple of stories from our clients. We've secured $3 million to an aerospace company in Vaughan, Ontario, and in the form of an interest-free government loan, and over $300,000 in government grants, non-repayable government grants, to a metal fabrication client in Kitchener, Ontario. This client was expanding, and a couple of grants really helped out with that expansion. But this is not the limit, actually. Like, this is my favorite success story so far. Unfortunately, not our client, I have to admit, but this particular company, Merit Functional Foods in Manitoba, secured over 100 million in different government grants, loans, and tax credits. So sky is the limit. If you qualify, if your business qualifies, then there's virtually no limit how much money you can secure from different programs, of course. Now, let's go back to the topic of our conversation today and focus on those emergency funding programs. As I said, there are different types of the support programs, and there are both government grants and loans within this emergency package. Just to remind you the difference, the government grant is a non-repayable funding. That means you don't have to pay back to the government. And government loans is obviously repayable. It could be interest-free, or it could be low interest, specifically for the pandemic relief. And typically, the loans are provided for operational purposes. There are also several programs, emergency programs that the government introduced in the area of loan guarantees. That means that you deal with your regular commercial bank or your favorite financial institution, and then take a commercial loan but then crown corporations like PDC and EDC, they put a guarantee on your commercial loan. So in the event if something goes wrong, then one of those crown corporations will be kind of responsible for paying out this loan on your behalf. There are also certain tax credits, deductions, energy rebates, and other kind of candies that are available. And we'll go through some of them, but not all of them, because there's just so much. Rather than going through all of it and spend next 2-3 hours, I highlight in this webinar, I will highlight the most popular programs and the most demanding programs from our client standpoint. And then I will share with you the links where you can find more information and where you can find all of those programs. So let's start with government grants. One of the top priorities for the government is to keep people on payroll rather than create huge unemployment. So the government introduced the emergency wage subsidy very early in the pandemic. The purpose of this program is to, well, literally what it says, provide the subsidy against salaries and the wages of employees to those companies that were in business as of March 15th and experienced a revenue drop. Now, when this program was first introduced, there was a minimum revenue drop criteria for the first couple of months. But then the government updated the program and removed the minimum revenue drop criteria. So right now, if your business experienced a revenue drop compared to either the average of January, February of 2020 or the corresponding period in 2019, then your business may qualify, and then percentage of the wage subsidy will depend on the percentage of your revenue drop. The maximum percentage of the subsidy is 75%, but there's also a maximum amount of dollars that you can receive per every employee, and it's $847 per employee per week. Now, the clients frequently ask us about any other criteria or limitations. In fact, there's no other limitation. There are no other limitations. It doesn't matter to the government if you have one employee or if you have 300 employees or 3,000. This program applies to all employers in the country, as long as your revenue dropped, you qualify. That's the key criteria. In terms of application procedure, it's a monthly application. Now, unfortunately, you can no longer apply for early pandemic periods like April, May of last year. Like the application intake for those periods is closed, but you can still apply for the wage subsidy for other periods. So if your revenue dropped, then most likely you qualify. The other nuance and the other question that we frequently get is if I'm, let's say, an owner of the company, say I have a small, say, consulting firm, or maybe I'm, say, a photographer or event planner, but anyways, I'm kind of self-employed, right? Do I qualify for the wage subsidy? The answer is yes, if. And yes, if you have paid yourself salary in last year, or actually not only last year, but if you continue, if you paid yourself salary before COVID, and you intend to continue to pay yourself a salary as that self-employed individual, in this case you are eligible. You can still get the emergency wage subsidy. Well, I will be happy to answer all other questions at the end of the presentation. But now let me switch to the rent subsidy. Well, that's another pain point, and unfortunately, the government was not quick in action for the commercial renters. They first introduced the program in May or June. But unfortunately, this program didn't really work because that program required the landlords to apply for the funding. And well, quite frankly, most of the landlords didn't care, which is expected. So the government had to change the program, and starting September of 2020, there's this program introduced called Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy. The eligibility criteria is pretty similar to the emergency rent subsidy. So you have to experience a revenue drop, and there's no limit for the revenue drop, no minimum revenue drop. And you have to, another criteria is you have to lease commercial or industrial property from a non-related landlord. So what that means is that, let's say if you have two companies, one company owns your operational company and another company owns a real estate, and your operating company pays monthly rent to your real estate company. In this case, this is not possible to receive the emergency rent subsidy. But if you are paying to a non-related landlord, then you qualify. And in terms of expenses, this program targets regular expenses such as rent, your tenant insurance, your regular utilities that you may pay as part of your deal, and property taxes. Again, depending on whether they are included in your rent or you pay them separately. This program provides a percentage of those eligible costs depending on the revenue drop. However, the maximum percentage is 65 in the general case. But then, if your business was subject to shutdowns anywhere in the country, we don't necessarily talk about Ontario, it's a federal program. In this case, 90% of your rent is eligible for the rent subsidy, which is quite significant. Have to highlight that this program will be available until June 2021. So if you are paying commercial rent and if you qualify, then I suggest you to apply for it right away and apply monthly for all the periods until June. Because at this point, we don't know if this subsidy and all other programs will be extended. There's no word on it so far, both on a federal level and provincial level. So it's extremely risky to delay the application in case if you qualify, because when the government introduced all those subsidies, they highlighted that those subsidies will be temporary, and temporary means there is a deadline to apply. And the sooner the better. Going on the Ontario level, Ontario introduced recently this program called Ontario Business Support Grant. As soon as the most recent shutdown was introduced on December 26, they introduced a program that can provide between $10,000 to $20,000 to those businesses that were subject to that shutdown, that were requested to either restrict operations or close them completely. Also, this program only applies to small businesses across all industry sectors that employ under 100 employees. So if you're, say, a restaurant owner, by all means, that's a program for you. A hair salon, for sure. Consulting. If you're, let's say, consultant impacted by that, and say you can no longer, consult your clients in person, and for some reason you cannot do it online, then you're also subject to this program. You have to have a minimum revenue drop, and for some reason, the provincial government uses a comparison between April 2020 to April 2019. Oh, I apologize for the typo. It actually should be April 2020 to April 2019. My bad. But anyways, you have to have at least a 20% revenue drop in that period. If that's the case, then you qualify and you can get between 10 to 20,000. Now let's talk about interest-free loans. There's a couple of programs in this section. We already know Canada Emergency Business Account. It was introduced very early in the pandemic as well. To qualify, you need to have at least you have to have been in business before or as of March 1st, 2020. and incur at least 20,000 in payroll expenses in 2019 calendar year. If that's the case, and if you have a business checking account with any Canadian financial institution, you qualify for the program. Originally, the amount of this interest-free loan was 40,000. They recently extended this amount to 60,000. The important condition, though, is that if you manage to repay the loan by December 31st, 2022, then a third of it, or 20,000, will be forgiven, which is good, depending, of course, on your needs. Of course, if you need much more, it's probably not good for you. But for most small to medium-sized operations, it's a significant amount of money, and it really helps them out in these difficult times. Now, to apply, you have to go to your preferred financial institution, your primary bank or credit union, and apply on their website by logging into your business checking account. Now, what if you need more? What if 60,000 is not enough for your business? In this case, there is that option called Regional Relief and Recovery Fund, where you can get an interest-free loan of up to $1 million for your typical operating expenses, such as paying your rent, salaries, lease, equipment lease, utilities, taxes, and so forth, as well as your extra costs for COVID-related cleaning, setting up a cleaning station, setting up, or say reconfiguration of your facility to respect physical distancing. So all of that is eligible for the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. This is the funding provided by federal development corporations in Ontario. In case if we have attendees from other provinces, I wanted to highlight that this program is federal. So it is provided by your regional development agency. And if you don't know what agency serves your region, let us know. We'll help you to find the right agency that covers your province. To qualify for this program, you have to be, first of all, incorporated. That's the only kind of difference compared to the other program. It's only available for corporations that were operational as of March 15th, 2020. And another important condition is that your corporation must have applied for other emergency programs, such as rent subsidy and wage subsidy, but must continue experience pressures. Now, if you ask me what's the definition of pressure, I'll tell you that there's no definition. In the application, you outline exactly what that means for you, because for every business is different. Depends on your cost structure and your cash flow. And the businesses are impacted unevenly. So in the application, you explain what that means, what the pressure means for your business. Okay. Now, keep in mind that again, this program so far this program is available, but again, we can't guarantee that this program will last much longer. So don't delay. If you qualify, if you have certain pressures and need more operational funding, by all means, please apply. Now let's talk about government-backed low-interest loans. This is the one. This is the one that was introduced very recently, just literally a couple of weeks ago. Highly affected sectors credit availability program. It's a long name, but I think it's worth looking into this program carefully, because first of all, there's a short deadline. Again, you see that it will end on June 30th, 2021. It's the 4% interest loan. It's a fixed interest rate. It does not depend on Bank of Canada rate, and it does not depend on the prime rate of your preferred financial institution. It's the interest rate that's fixed and that's stipulated by the rules of the program and by the government. So it doesn't matter who you deal with, like what bank you deal with. That's all you're going to pay. 4% flat interest rate. You can borrow between 25,000 and $1 million. The repayment can be up to 10 years, by the way, negotiable, but it could be up to 10 years. So it's very unique program compared to other commercial loans. Even crown corporations, maybe they can give you a bit cheaper money, but they cannot give you a fixed rate. This program can give a fixed rate. So what do you need to apply? You need, first of all, to be small to medium-sized business. It's not for large enterprises. It could be a business of any nature. There's no limitation to what sort of industry you have to be. However, you have to experience a minimum 50% revenue drop within 8 months prior to your application date. And within those 8 months, you have to have at least 3 months where you have revenue dropped for over 50%. Now, those 3 months within 8 months, they don't have to be consecutive. But if you have any 3 months within the previous 8 months, then you qualify. There are certain limitations, by the way, on how you can use this funding. Typically, you can use this funding, this loan, to cover your operational expenses, but there are certain reasonable exceptions. You cannot use this loan to pay yourself a dividend. But salary, for example, is totally fine, totally eligible. What else is available? Good question. So I told you at the beginning that I wouldn't be able to cover everything, unfortunately, just because we have time limits. But in this presentation, I have provided you with the links to the programs, to the other programs available both on federal and provincial levels. Depending on where you live, which province you live, you can access all federal programs anywhere in Canada, but also you can access some additional programs. For example, in Ontario, there's a funding to build your website or e-commerce platform if you're a qualified Main Street small to medium-sized business. And there are other programs pretty much across Canada. Some energy rebates in some municipalities. There are also property tax rebates or property tax reliefs. So again, we're not going to go through all of them right now, but you will get a copy of the presentation and all of those links. If you are not in Ontario, Quebec, Alberta, British Columbia, let us know. We'll be happy to find the similar link on your provincial website. Now, what about recovery? We hear a lot about that. It's a buzzword, but I have to admit that right now, we don't have any updates from the provincial or federal authorities as far as the budget. The next fiscal year starts on April 1st of 2021, which is very soon. Typically, the budgets are released in March of every year, so we expect some updates, some information in March 2021. But what our research shows is that we noticed that other G7 member states, they are planning on huge infrastructure, R&D, and productivity improvement spending to support recovery post-pandemic. There's too many words, but long story short is that other G7 members, they will have more money available for businesses for different purposes, and there will be investments in infrastructure and technology. So that's something that we should remember. And at this time, we expect that the Canadian government will take the same route and will do the same as other G7 countries are doing. For example, we know that in Italy, the government used kind of COVID and recovery from COVID to launch a huge fund for local manufacturers to purchase the most up-to-date equipment and advance their facilities. So we'll see what Canadian government will come up with. We do hope that there will be more direct funding for things such as R&D and improvement in technology over the next few years, but of course we'll see. Interest rates will most likely remain low. It will help our economy to recover, and it will also it may also spike the number of low interest loans from the government or crown corporations. So we'll have to monitor that as well. And the hardest hit sectors may also be provided with tax relief. We don't exclude that. This is also a practice that some of the countries introduced, not from G7, but some countries they did introduce it. And also there are some local and municipal level reliefs that we noticed around the world for the most hard hit sectors such as restaurant, hospitality, services, and many other hard hit sectors. Now, how do we maximize, and how can you maximize the chances of success when applying for one of those emergency programs? First of all, understand and respect eligibility rules. Fortunately, if we compare these emergency programs with regular grants, government grants, loans, and tax credits, the eligibility rules are not very complex, but you have to clearly understand them and make sure that you qualify, because you don't want to deal with government or with CRA later on. Calculate accurately. What I mean by that is that for example, wage subsidy and rent subsidy, their eligible periods, they don't necessarily match your payroll period, or they don't necessarily match your period where you pay rent. So you have to literally do the math and align your pay period with the government with the government period as per the program. So there's some math involved in it in the application. Establish a good working relationship with your bank account manager. This is crucial because many loans, as you have seen, are channeled through the commercial banks. The government doesn't really give them away directly, unlike a wage subsidy and rent subsidy. So talk to your financial institution, establish good relationship with your bank account manager, make sure he or she understands very well your business and what kind of challenges you are going through, what your cash flow needs are, and they will be able to find the best matching program for your needs. Next one is keep in mind the deadline for the applications. Right now, most of the programs will end at the end of June 2021. Understand consequences. For example, when you apply for the loan, you will be required to repay this loan one way or the other. Sooner or later, that's the case. So you have to understand very well if you are in a position to do that, if your business is good enough, or if it will be recovering fast enough to be able to repay the loan. Also, keep in mind that the subsidies, for example, or the grants that the government provides, they're not really free, although many people think that they are truly free. They're not truly free because your income that you receive from the government is your taxable income. So yes, you receive the wage subsidy, but it could be your taxable income, depending, of course, of your fiscal year end results. But keep in mind, it's not the subsidies are not really free. And don't hesitate to contact the government or offices of your MP and MPP if you have any questions. Right now, there are many ways you can clarify the information that's unclear to you. If you are not sure, by all means, feel free to contact the government because that's what they're here for. Now, we are coming to the end of the presentation. I just wanted to highlight a couple of other things. We have a book called Get Funded. That book does not have a list of grants or subsidies because they always come and go. It's more strategic. It's about how you determine what's the funding, what your funding needs are, and how you find the best matching government programs for you, depending on what you do and what you wanted to accomplish. There will be also tips from funders and writers how to increase chances for success in your application. And if you're interested, you can order this book online at fgwinc.ca/getfunded, so our website, or you can also find it on Amazon. And lastly, I am happy to answer your questions either today or after or any time after this webinar ends. I want to highlight a free eligibility check form that's on our website as well. This is what we typically recommend to all participants: is go there at fgwinc.ca/eligibility and fill out the form. It will take you maybe 1 or 2 minutes, but this will give us enough information to determine what government funding programs are for you and how we can help you. We'll be happy to help you with the application, but at least, but if you choose to do it yourself, for example, we at least will be able to pinpoint, to show you the right direction of what specific grants are available for you. And that concludes the presentation. I will probably keep the slide on, and let's see if I can turn my video back. Okay, Colin, do we have any questions from the audience?
Hi, Igor. Thanks for your presentation. No, we don't have any questions from the audience, but I do have one. You discussed a lot about the various grants that are available, but I'm thinking now, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a small business owner, and I'm wondering, there are lots of folks who've been hard hit by this pandemic economically, and I'm thinking about people like small producers. We've heard a lot of things that have happened in the hospitality sector, to restaurants, that sort of thing. Also stylists. Are these companies eligible? Are these small mom and pop or perhaps sole proprietors? Are they eligible for these grants?
Yeah, in a majority of them are eligible, and those programs were designed exactly to help those mom and pop mainstream businesses to stay afloat and survive the waves of pandemic. So yes, okay. Those are eligible.
Okay, that was my main question, because I know we've often heard from the government, governments across the world, in fact, that small businesses are the backbone of their economy. So I think that's where the most help would be needed.
Correct. And of course, we expect more. We just can't speculate right now.
Yes.
Have to wait until the budgets are released.
Yes, and we should be hearing about that fairly soon.
Exactly.
All right. And there are a couple of open questions. There are two, in fact. Doug asks, can I get a signed copy of the book if I purchase it from your website?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And he also asks, can you give some examples of the expenses covered under the $60,000 grant?
Mostly they are operational expenses. It's everything that normally you incur, your business incurs, again, depending on the nature of it. So, for example, there's definitely some things such as rent, such as salaries. If you buy certain materials or parts, then your parts and materials also qualify. So those are major operational funds. If you pay, say, software on a monthly basis, like most of the businesses nowadays have some kind of software that have them on the hook. Those regular payments that you were doing before the pandemic, and you have to keep paying them to keep your business and make sure it's functional, all of those qualify.
Okay, thanks. And Dimitri asks, does the CEBA CEBA still have the max requirement of 1.5 million in payroll expenses?
Yes, it does. Yes, that's still the case.
Okay.
It wasn't on the slide, but that's the case, yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any more questions, or shall I just go ahead? Just give me a moment here. I'm going to throw it open so that we have the opportunity to discuss. So everyone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to talk, and what you can do is unmute your microphones to add your voice to the conversation. All right, so all you have to do is unmute to be able to add your comments to the conversation. All right. While you're thinking about your comments, what I'd also like to do to point out right now is to say to you, please look out for in your emails for emails from Fair Grant Writing about the other webinars that we are hosting. We have 2 more coming up this month. I don't have my email open, but they will be one which will be with American.ca. And that will be a presentation, again, covering some of the grants that are available to you. And that's going to be taking place. Okay, let me just make sure I've got the right screen going.
Yeah, oh, and we got a question
Yes, please.
from John about the agricultural grant for corporations. So the short answer to your question, John, is yes. We're aware of that one, of those special grants for agriculture. Rather than responding now, I'd rather have a conversation with you one-on-one. Yeah, just to for everybody's sake, let's not dive into the special grants. There are many special initiatives for certain industries, and you'll find more information following one of the links that I will share with you in the copy of the slide. So yeah, for sure, we'll get in touch with you.
Right. And the webinars that are upcoming for the month of February are that we will be doing one with SFPM Food Consulting on February 23rd. It's going to be at 11:30. And the other one with Mirkin.ca, that will take place on February 25th. The topics respectively are boost your food safety process and profitability with government grant funding. And with Mirkin, the topic will be leverage grant funding for business survival and growth in 2021. You should see, those should be in your inboxes if you're receiving mail from us, as well as you can have a look in our social media and on LinkedIn to see the links to those registrations. All right. So with that, I'm gonna again ask, are there any questions, comments, observations that anyone would like to make at this point?
It was very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. All right. And on that note, I think we will have reached the end of our webinar for today. I would like to thank all of you for coming out this day to have a listen to what we have to offer. I encourage you, if you are seeking to get grant funding to do any of these things, be it COVID relief or just general expansion of your business, any projects that you may have, please feel free to reach out to us. We can help you navigate your way through the complexities of these many, many programs. Also, if you are interested in collaborating with us on a webinar, please feel free to reach out to us on that as well. So with that, I'd like to say to you all, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day